Okay.
Okay. Norton Hurd. Today is May 10th of 2017, and this is the Middlesex County Museum and Historical Society that wants to capture your childhood and growing up in Middlesex County. You were born in what year?
1960.
And the date?
September the 15th.
September 15th. What, we had some questions here for you. Were you born at home?
Yes, ma'am.
And were there any difficulties?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Not that I remember.
And do you know who would have been there when your mom delivered you?
My mama.
Just your mom?
As far as I know, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember
Okay.
anything about it.
Do you have any older brothers or sisters?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Were you know any younger brothers or sisters?
I've never had any brothers and sisters.
Okay.
I was the only child.
Okay. And your dad was alive when you were born?
Was what?
Your father was alive when you were
Yes,
born?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Where was he working at that time?
Home.
At home.
No, he was a farmer. He had an ice route. Did a little bit of everything. And the oyster, and then just worked a year around at something.
And you said he had ice?
Later on in life, he was an iceman.
Was he an iceman?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did he get the ice from?
Alabama.
And did Urbana bring it in?
No, ma'am. Oh, well, I'm sorry.
How did Urbana get the ice?
I don't know where
Don't
they
know.
got it.
Okay.
He didn't. I don't know where they got it.
Okay. During your childhood in Deltaville, describe the community of Deltaville.
Very rural. Very rural. Everybody knew everybody. And kind of looked out for one another. The way I remember them, they all were kind to me. I don't have any bad things to say about my early childhood. Most of it was good.
Did they have policemen back there having to cruise and watch the...
No.
No policemen?
Oh, man.
Do you remember ever a robbery?
Not when I was a young man. Since then, but
Since then?
I was a young man.
So when you were a youngster, you remember it being pretty quiet here
Yes, ma'am.
and pretty crime-free.
Yes.
Now, you went to school. How old were you when you started school?
7 years old the day I started.
Okay. And did you go to school right here in
Right
Deltaville?
in Deltaville.
And when did you finish school in Deltaville?
I didn't. I had to go to Swinger the last year of high school. And took the high school away from here. Put it at Swinger. And I was in my class was the first class to go up there.
Okay. Do you remember what year that would have been?
1934.
Okay. Do you know why they had you go up there to high school?
They consolidated.
Okay. And how many years were you in high school?
How many were in high school?
Mm-hmm. How many grades were there were there 12?
Yeah, there were 12 grades. Right.
Okay. So you finished all 12 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what did you do?
I mean, as far as education goes?
Education or work or the military?
I went to Lynchburg College and 4 years, graduated in 1938. Bachelor. So,
And what did you graduate with? What was your degree in?
BA, history.
In history.
Yeah, mainly history, yes, ma'am.
What part of history are you most interested in?
The next year, what's coming ahead?
The future.
Yes, ma'am. My past is gone.
Good for you. And you saw and have seen a lot of future.
Well, yes, I have. Go ahead, keep asking.
What do you remember about the years between World War I and World War II, because you finished high school in 1938. Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah, 34.
34.
College in 38.
Okay. What do you remember about those years economically? Were they hard times, or was there...
You talking about the years I was in college and high school?
Yes.
Yes, there were hard times. And I guess, for example, every boy in the dormitory at Lynchburg College had a job except one.
Mm.
And we all worked. And every year I come home and tell them I'd go in the office before I left and tell them I wouldn't be back because you only had so many jobs and too many people, more people wanted jobs than there were jobs. So I waited on tables and I'd go in there and say, I won't be back. And they said, why not? I said, because unless you can promise me a job, so we don't know about that. So okay, I come home and then on about August I'd get a letter and say, come on back, you got your job back. So I'd waited on tables 4 years.
Did you? Do you remember how much your hourly pay was? Do you have any memory
I
of
don't
what
remember
they paid?
getting any money in my hand.
So how did they...
All went towards my tuition.
Okay, so you waited tables,
Yes, ma'am.
and that money went directly to Lynchburg College.
Yes, ma'am. Well, there wasn't any money passed, I guess, because they didn't pay me, but they said that I guess it went somewhere. I don't know what to do with it. I didn't get it.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And that's how it worked all 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do in the summers?
Well, I came home and worked to help my dad on his farming, and later years I helped him harvest crops, harvest them, bring them. He opened that little store you see up there. He opened that when I was a junior in high school. So following that, I was strictly working in the grocery store. Not in the store so much, but he raised all kinds of crops. And people were starting to come down here from Richmond around the weekend and all this stuff. So he raised crops that they wanted, and I harvested them all and to come in and get them and go down to where the cottages were and solicit their business. And then come back to the store and just fill it and I carried it back to them. Because in those days, most all of the people who came down here from Richmond to stay for a week, a month, or what it was, didn't have 2 automobiles. They only had 1, and they came down, bringing families down and leaving me in. And I carried them to bale, I carried them beer, I carried them water, I carried them anything. And dumped the garbage for them, I did whatever I did. Good to get the business because there were 2 other stores here, grocery stores, both established and both people older than me.
Okay.
They were after the business too. And I just hustled best I could.
Now, did you have a truck or...
It's a sedan delivery they had in those days. You know what that is?
No.
It's sort of a closed-in station wagon.
Okay.
Best way I can describe it, I guess. This had a cab all the way around.
Did you have your business name on it?
Daddy did, yeah.
Okay. And what did it say?
J.W. Hurd. Fancy Eats and Meats.
That's great. So when would you say after college, what did you do for your first job?
My first job, I came home after graduating from college and went back to work in the store with my dad and everything. He never wanted me to leave home to start with. He didn't want me to go to college. Mama did, but he didn't want me. He didn't want me to leave. He wanted me to stay there with him. Anyway, I went, and I came home from college and went back to work just like I'd always done. Come along about August, my mother, she finished 2 years of college. And in those days, if you got married, you couldn't teach if you're a woman. So she had to quit teaching with my daddy. That's where it treated women back in the days. Anyway, what was I talking about?
About your mom.
I came home and came along with August, and Mama asked me, what you gonna do this winter? I said, I really don't know. For sure find a job, I guess. She says, well, have you applied for any? I said, no. And everybody wanted a job. Other people in my class at the school who were taking practice teaching and everything, they all sending applications all around, going out and visiting, and I didn't do anything. I just came home. I guess I knew it could work. So anyway, she said, don't you think you better? I said, yeah. So I brought home with me a list of all the superintendents in Virginia. That's all I had. No leads, no nothing. Just the names and the counties that represented. This is the truth. I looked down the list and it said, W.R. Wrigglesworth. A boy working at the store could type. Come down here to the garage and had a typewriter. They were the only one in town, I don't know. Took it up at night and he typed it. I told him what to say and he typed it. And then he said, where do you want to send it? I said, man, you didn't have duplicate machines like you have now, you know. I said, oh my God. Anyway, W.R. Wrigglesworth. Let's send it to him. Maybe we can wriggle the job out of it. That's the way it went. So he was the superintendent of Delaware and Amelia County. And it just so happened, most of my life's been that way, it just so happened that the guy there who was teaching and coaching, gone to Emory Henry, and he had trained to be a diplomat, but he'd never gotten a job yet. And they called him for that job just about the time they got my letter about an application that they were without anybody, and there I was without a job, and it happened just like that. They called me up on the phone the day of the store, He said, if you're interested, come on up here. I forgot the next day or the day after, something like that. Meet them in the bank of Middlesex, meet the board. So I did, and I talked to them for a little while, asked me questions. He says, wait a while outside, and then I did. They called me in and said, well, if you want the job, be here. This was, I think, 5 days for me. Says, report here 5 days if you want the job. I said, I'll be here. So I showed up, and I stayed there 3 years, taught history, and primarily I coached baseball and basketball. I was more interested in that than everything.
Now, were you working there the 3 years and not more? What happened after 3 years?
Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And I played a lot of baseball as a youth.
I've heard you're very good, too.
Well, one thing I played a lot of baseball. I played every position at some time or another except catching. And I never wanted to catch. So I said, well, I believe I'd rather be up pitching than down here catching. So that's when I went down to Richmond to the recruiting office. I've been telling my students, this is where you go sign up for a war often. So I went in there, Army. This is Army. And I said, I came in, joined up the Air Corps. Because I'm a big shot civilian right then, I don't have to do this. I'm voluntarily doing this. So I just said, I probably wasn't very nice. And he said, well, I'm sorry. I said, I can't sign you up. I said, well, why can't you take the application? You have to get an application and send it to the 3rd Corps area in Baltimore, Maryland, and they will in turn send you to tell you what you have to do and what not have to do, fill out everything and send it back in. I said, well, that don't sound just like I've been telling my students, if you want to join the service, you go to the recruitment office. And here I am want you to recruit me, you don't want to do it. So I thanked him, I left. I'm going down the hall and I see the sign that says U.S. Naval Reserve, had a set of wings on it. So while I'm here, I might as well try that place. So I go in, the guy, Yeoman, and he says, have a seat. He says, I'll get the captain to see you in just a minute. So he did. He asked me about myself, and what I'd done, what education, a lot of questions like that. He said, step in the other room and take a pre-physical. This stuff and highs and stuff. I couldn't pass now. And anyway, he said, well, I don't see why you wouldn't qualify. He said, when can you go up to Anacostia and take a physical, real physical? I said, I can go most any time. By this time, my uncle was the principal of the high school I was teaching. He came in my last year there. In fact, I got him a job. But anyway, he loaned me his car. I didn't have a car. So he loaned his car and I went to Boston to take the physical. I go over to the physical. They gave me a party that night before I left. But, I got up and I took the physical and the man said, Ben, you can't pass the physical. You got a little bit of fever and I don't know, you're just not in very good shape. I said, so can you stay up here a while? I said, yeah, I got the friends. I said, yeah, I got some friends up here. I can stay here. He says, well, you come back Wednesday. In the meantime, don't you do anything but eat and sleep. Because you're underweight. Plus the other things wrong with you. But the underweight is one thing you've got to do something about. So I didn't do a thing about it for 2 days and nights but eat. And in the morning I went over there, I drank a quart of milk, 6 bananas, and went over there and just made the weight. And so then I went went into the flight training and got my wings in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, I know I have seen the YouTube clip of you talking about your military service.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have watched that. And that's very, very interesting. And we want to kind of concentrate and go back then to your childhood. And what did this community and your family do for you that made you hardworking, want to join the military, and you were an upright or are an upright, quote, citizen?
Well, my mother had several brothers, and at the time, most of them were in high school when I was in little fella. And she used to go down there, and I loved to go down there and stay with them big guys, you know. I even got so the school right across the road from me, you know, where the swimming pool is now, that's where the school was. They'd go to class, and during the day I'd go across over there, go in and visit one of the boys, go in and visit the other one. Nobody ever bothered me. I'd go to all the class, wherever the boys were, that's where I'd go. But when I got to first grade, she says, no, you can't do this anymore. You got to raise your hand and get excused like the rest of them. So that kind of cut my fun off. But these uncles, they were great to me, and I loved to go down there and stay down there, and sometimes with 3 of us in the bed and all kinds of things. But they taught me a lot, and teased me a lot. In fact, I remember very distinctly sometimes say, get away from me, you got ancestors.
And your mom, what did your mom do that most, you think back and you love her the most for? Your fondest memories of mom and dad?
My family was good to me. I couldn't ask for anything better. As a matter of fact, I was probably 10, 12 years old before I realized that I was part of two families. They were so connected to one another. My dad's brothers and sisters moved to Baltimore, and when they'd visit down here, they would visit my mother's family. And when my mother's family went to Baltimore to visit them, they stayed with the other side of the family. And that's where it always was. I never knew any different. It was just a family.
And you had lots of family that supported you and loved you.
Yes, ma'am. I really was lucky about that. I really was.
Now, I have heard that you took the steamboat by yourself to Baltimore at the age of 14.
I don't know how old it was. All I know is my dad's sister lived up there. And I got on a steamboat and went up to Baltimore.
And you were by yourself?
Yes, ma'am. But of course I went with them too sometimes.
Okay, both. But you weren't afraid of being hurt or anything happening to you on the boat?
No. Nobody gonna bother me.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is.
This is an aside. At that time in my life, something happened. I guess because I had collected eggs. I didn't like eggs. I didn't want to eat eggs. So I get up to Baltimore the first time I went. I went several times. First time I went, she let me sleep late. I came down to breakfast, and she had eggs. And I looked at them, and I kind of shoved them aside. She said, "What's the matter?" I said, "How much do these eggs cost?" She said, "Oh," she told me, "Why do you want to know that?" I said, "I'd rather pay for them and eat them."
How much was an egg then?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Now, there were sports here in Deltaville. Was the ballpark, was that here? Do you remember?
That wasn't here till after the war.
World War II?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Baseball was everything here. All it took was a bag full of sand and something to make for a base. And what got me into baseball was the high school then. What semblance of baseball game at diamond that they had was right where the tennis courts are now. That was home plate right there. And let's see. And they put up a screen behind, so we hit the ball, tip foul, go back over. And I would go up and come across the road. So I'd stand over there and catch them.
Across the road?
Across the road. I'm on one side of the road and Dom's on the other. So I'd go and catch them in my front yard and give it back to them. That's where I started baseball.
So if you had home plate was over by the tennis courts?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was first base?
Headed north.
Headed north. Okay. But still on that side, all the bases were on that side of the road.
Yes, ma'am.
The outfield was across the road.
Oh, no. All the diamonds on that side of the road.
Okay.
They were hitting the ball. Remember you was batting and you tip foul or foul back like that. Then they went across the road over there. I'm over there catching them.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Well, Norton, can you think of anything else that was important to you growing up or you'd like to share?
Well, I think I was a little bit advantaged that I had families I could visit in Baltimore. I was fortunate that I had a mother that was interested in my education, and I had a dad that saw that I worked and earned my way. And he and I never had too many arguments, but the last one we had, we shook hands and said, "Don't let this happen again." And it never did. 50, 60 years later, we never had another cross word.
That's very good.
I mean, they were both good to me. I mean, I couldn't ask for any more. I told you that I was a teenager before I realized that I belonged to two families. I thought we were all just one big outfit. I made some notes. I can't read my own writing. Oh, I was fortunate. You asked me about Deltaville. Well, we were fortunate in getting these ballparks when we did, and we were one of the first ballparks in the whole Tidewater, northern Tidewater area to have lights. And I remember we used to go as far as Culpeper, play baseball at night time.
Now, how did you get the money for the lights?
Or they solicited, and the people who were interested they sold them $100 slips, or whatever you call it.
$100. That was a lot of money back then.
My daddy gave them $100. I remember that. Tom Crittenden, I mean, lots of Tom, Dr. Marshall, Ohio Revere, all gave $100. Later on, some of them wanted the money back. And they got it back. Dad never took it back. I think I was raised right next door to the church.
Which church?
Philippi. And my mother, both of my grandfathers were founders of Philippi Church. And so that all had an influence on my life. I'm sure they did. They used to have youth groups. And one of our favorite things on Sunday nights was to go down to the docks and meet the steamboats going, stopping by, going to Baltimore.
Now, which dock would that have been?
One down North End, and the other one down Jackson Creek Wharf.
Okay.
That's Deltaville. Now, they went up the river, other places, but that's where they were here, choosing places. The biggest change that ever came over Deltaville was the storm in 1933. That changed our village, changed everything. And shifted economy, culture, everything, family was Baltimore, Deltaville, Baltimore. But when the war disappeared, and you couldn't get to Baltimore by boat, then they had to start getting it by truck.
Okay.
And that's when they started bringing it to Richmond, and that's when the Richmond people found Deltaville.
Okay.
33 changed all that. Yes, ma'am.
And it changed it how? When the storm came through, did it destroy the wharfs and so the steamboats?
All the wharfs went away. So there was no alpha steamers to come to.
Okay.
So that ended that. And we changed this whole place here. We had a silent movie theater here. And 2 bowling alleys, a couple of pool halls when I was growing up.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, and baseball.
Do you remember how many people lived roughly in Deltaville? Do you remember any numbers?
No, I sure not. I know what's good at numbers anyway.
Okay. Okay.
I told you I went to Amelia, and I taught there 3 years before I joined the Navy. And then I came home, and my dad, like I said, never wanted me to leave home anyway. So he asked me, what you going to do when the war's over? Every time I come home, he wanted to know, what you going to do, what you going to do? You want me to get back here for something? So I said, I don't know, Dad, but I know very well there's going to be a lot of demand for a lot of things when the war's over because people can't buy it because the military's getting it all. So especially appliances. And he said, yeah, you're right about that. So next time I came home, he had bought this old store, which was the center of Deltaville economy. He used to sell everything. I remember as a boy, shoes, dresses, back dresses, everything. And he says, I got us a place. So he bought that old store.
Which old store was it?
That was a Moore, Sam Moore.
Sam Moore, is that still standing?
Oh, ma'am. I tore it down and built this.
Okay. So it was on this site?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Right where we're sitting.
Okay.
I built
Do you have any pictures of it?
Oh, yeah, somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
No.
Later on, I'll get a picture of it.
Are you familiar with the Deltaville book?
Yes.
Well,
It's in that book.
Pictures in that book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most all the history of this place is in there. I mean, I don't know. I tried to think of something that was different. Yes, what you did here was, besides baseball, I mean, there was the water. We used to all swim.
What about the singing nettles?
Well, most time you try to avoid those.
So we still have them. They haven't gone away.
No, no. I don't know. I can't remember. I can't read my writing. I have to put it down here. But
Do you have any advice for our future generations?
God. First of all, obey your parents. Second of all, don't be afraid to go to work. And don't be so particular about what you do. But whatever you do the best you can. And at the same time, try if you can to stay around home. People who know you, love you, and respect you. And hopefully you can go and be a part of a community, because we need people who support the community, fire department, rescue squad, ball, tennis court, on and on and on. And unless you kind of live here and work here, it's hard for you to be real keen about doing that. So we like to see people stay here, work here, and live here, and bring their families up here. And I don't think there's anywhere that they could find better to raise a family than Middlesex County. And I think history will attest for the relationships, old, young, black, white, whatever. You know, get along pretty good, I think.
One last question for you. How important was church to you and your family?
Okay, church was important to me. I grew up in the church, but like I told you, I had two grandfathers who were the first trustees. Both of them. The rostrum, the old one, is back in my grandfather built that, and that's in the history part of it now. They never use it, but that is. He built that pulpit, not pulpit. What do you call it? The preacher preached from.
That's pulpit.
Okay.
Yeah.
He built that. That's over there. And Mama, she taught Sunday school for 50 years. Dad, he was treasurer of the church for many, many years. And so all I had to do was walk over there. I lived next door. All I had to do, I was expected to go, and I went. And I told you about Sunday nights we'd go meet the steamers sometimes. That was a big event. Somebody started singing, somebody played a guitar, something like that.
So you had plenty to do.
I never sat down and wished there was something I could do. I always had something to do.
And that was without television.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I say, we were lucky enough to have a bowling alley. When I was a teenager, a bowling alley and a movie theater and pool and
You had the baseball.
And baseball.
Right.
Always
Right.
baseball.
Is there anything else you would like to say, Norton? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just look say I was a lucky man to be born here and have the parents that I had, and the support of the community that I have always had. And in our business, we've been very, very fortunate to be able to be here for over the years and community has been real good to us, and I think we try to reciprocate, and hope we can stay here 50, 60 years longer. Somebody.
We hope so too, and I think your children are very much involved in the business.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good.
I don't own the business anymore. I own the building, but the business is in Stockton. My two children, Mike and I'm sorry, not Mike. Jack and Myra own it. Stockton.
Good. Well, you have done the community appreciates your business, and I hear nothing but good from it. And the shoes I have on, I bought here, and they were half the price of the same shoe that I saw in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Half the price.
She has good prices in it, but now, God, I don't know. She's dress business. This is supposed to be a hardware store, you know.
That's called diversifying, going back to the general store.
Just so she can sell it.
You have to stay alive as a business and a person. It's both.
But you can't buy a lot of stuff, keep buying it as it doesn't sell.
Right.
Right. You have to be careful.
Right.
Somebody doing over the years, we have go to hardware shows a couple times a year. The True Value has a hardware show. We go. A couple times we've been to Las Vegas. And they go different places every year. Somebody asked me, well, you went to Las Vegas. Did you do the gambling? I said, I sure did. Everything I bought was a gamble.
Did you come out ahead?
I never did. This is a while back. I don't know about now. Internet is
whole nother world.
Tying up local retail businesses.
Yeah. I bet.
I don't know what's going to happen.
So
I really don't. Now, when you don't have retail businesses and you don't have people to support the community, they don't get on about you. They're not going, and they're not paying any taxes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they keep growing. They keep growing. And the stock keeps going up. And people think that's wonderful.
But you don't have that hub of community anymore. It's gone.
Oh, man.
Well, Norton, thank you.
Oh, you are.
We appreciate it very much.
Well,
I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, when you get to be 100, the memory's not so good.
Mine isn't good, and I'm 71.
And I know I've forgotten it. I forgot stuff I wanted to say, and I don't even know what that was. I can't read it now. But I was very fortunate. Oh, and one of some of the events you went to.
Mm-hmm.
When I was something else I got to go, which was most unusual in those days, is the World's Fair started in 1945. I came home with the service in 45. Went to work in the store, was there for a while. And I had a customer down in Stigler who worked for insurance company. Can't remember the name of it. Of New York. And they lived in Richmond. And he was manager of the Richmond branch. And they would come there. They had a nice car. And she'd stay here all during the week. And he'd go to Richmond and then come in train and come down and then just take him back. So he talked about Daddy into taking me back to New York with him. And I got to go to the World's Fair at my age, and that was something.
And that was the first World's Fair.
That was the first World's Fair. And I stayed a week up there, and I stayed in his apartment. And I never saw him but one time in that week.
So you were roaming around New York.
I'd go I stayed at the fair all day, and he'd be working all day. I'd come on at night, he'd be sleeping. And that's where he was. So I got up Thursday morning, he had a note. Good morning, stranger, you haven't meet me for dinner. So.
And you stayed out of trouble that whole week.
Yes, ma'am, and I never saw a soul of it, but the coach of football at the University of Richmond can't remember his name right now. But I recognized him. He doesn't know me from nobody. But I recognized him. So I remember long about Thursday, I looked for, in fact, I looked for a familiar face the whole week. Never saw one. I'd never been away from home that long, you know. I'm in New York City. And that face was new to me. So I'm so I finally go over, I see him, I go and stand right beside him while we're having the fireworks. He doesn't know I ever existed. He's dead and gone now. He never knew of it, but I felt good being with somebody. We're close home. So I was fortunate to be able to do that. You know what they said about fair? You remember, maybe you don't remember all this, but Sally Rand, you ever heard that name?
No.
She had a fan. She danced with a fan.
Oh.
Okay.
And what was under this fan?
That was, oh yeah. That was, damn, and he was a guy who had the
Ringling Brothers?
Broadway.
Okay.
Anyway, said Billy somebody.
I don't know.
Said Billy something. Said, why don't you dance to Sally Rand? That was her name. She says, to Sally Rand, why don't you dance without your fan? So she danced with the fans and Billy Rose and Sally Rand.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Damn, all right. Yeah. Yeah. We didn't have a bank here until I built that store.
That was a store across on the corner?
Yes. Well, look, right there, it's still out now, the building is.
Okay.
Yeah, I sold them a little lot, put it on. Which could have been a mistake, but anyway, you had to go to Sluter or Banner to the bank until I put that branch at Bank of Middlesex. I was already bored then. And we needed a bank here. Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
What year roughly? Do you remember what year that would have been?
yeah, 64.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That late.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and you know, I was only bored at the bank at the time. And looking back, I probably shouldn't have sold them a lot, but anyway, we needed a bank so bad, and they were looking for a place to put it. And of course, I was selfish too, because I was close to me, and close to my business. And up until that time, I cashed checks for people. I never carried $1 cash to the bank before that opened. All I did was cash checks. Cash checks, bring cash back, cash checks, bring cash back. I was acted as a bank. So did all the people who were business store, grocery stores and all. Everybody, all over cash checks. Right to this bank for people. And but we finally got one, and then they left.
Things come and things go.
Oh yeah, if they didn't go, I should have. I needed it now. But, you know. Anyway, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Norton. We appreciate it very much.
I don't know whether I helped you or not.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Now, where do you and your wife go out to dinner? I hear you go out to dinner every night.
Oh no, that's not true.
That's not true.
No. Well, I'll admit that she doesn't cook, doesn't like to cook. So I got to do something. Well, I don't know if any restaurant local where we haven't been, you know. And we go outside the county occasionally. Myra does the same thing.
Does she?
She usually Texas.
Does she?
Yeah.
Well, very good. Okay. We got